Hello, it feels ages, but welcome back to the Matchbook Weekend Football Podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Hussey, joined firstly by Mark O'Hare. Mark, are you refreshed, ready to go after the international break? You always come back, I feel, from these breaks refreshed and even in a better mindset than normal.
I am refreshed. Yeah, I spent a week in the sun with the family in Tenerife, which was quite nice. Recharge the batteries. It's always feels like quite a big slog from the last international break to the next one through the winter, because we always have a hectic Christmas and festive period. But to have a World Cup in there as well, yeah, felt it was overdue. So I always look forward to March and try and get away this time of year for a little refresh, bit of sunshine. So yeah, coming back and looking forward now to what's going to be a hectic and very important next couple of months with a lot to be decided.
Yeah, brilliant part of the world, Tenerife, as we were discussing off air. Adrian, over to you. I asked, or like Marcus maybe refreshed, but you've been working all the way through, commentating on EFL. Like it just doesn't stop for you. It's
It
24/7,
doesn't stop.
365.
We can sleep at the end of the season. It's all good. Yeah. No, it's all systems go. Yeah, it's turning into a brilliant campaign, isn't it? And yeah, I'm excited about what lies ahead between now and the sort of end of May, really. And yeah, so much quality football to look forward to. So no, I didn't get away, but yeah, hopefully at the end of the season, maybe with one or two things to celebrate, it'd be yeah, nice to get away.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, here's the last day of the season is officially the 10th of June is the Champions League final this year, which I got a bit of a shock. I knew it was at the start of June, but I didn't realize how late into it. So yeah, look, about a 2-month break in the summer, then until around the 13th of August till we're back. So anyway, focus on the next couple of months. 4 games we're going to cover. And to be honest with you, it's as good a Premier League weekend as you're going to get really at this time of year. Man City versus Liverpool, Arsenal Leeds, West Ham versus Southampton, and Newcastle versus Manchester United. If you are listening on the podcast, we'd really appreciate a 5-star review if you're enjoying the content. And if you are watching on YouTube, do subscribe to the YouTube channel for free. It'd be much appreciated. And hit that like button as well. We'll get straight into it. And look, one of the biggest games of the season coming up here. Manchester City at home to Liverpool, Saturday, 12:30. We'll take a look at the betting. Currently, we have a matchbook.com on Thursday afternoon. Manchester City, 1.68 at home to Liverpool, who are a 5.7 shot. The draw is available at 4.3. Both teams to score yes is 1.76 with no 2.16. The Asian handicap line sees Liverpool get a goal start at 1.85, and the total in this one, the goal line, is currently set at 3.0, but that is shaded a good bit to the under. So look, Mark, we'll start with you on this one. First game back, 12:30 after an international break. It seems a mindset of it'll be cagey, cautious, but with these two teams, it probably won't be, will it?
I don't think so. It could be. You say the rule is never to bet the early kickoff, don't you, Dan? So
Yeah.
it's a piece of advice I didn't heed before, and it bit me in the buttocks. But this time around, perhaps it might be advice to heed, because it's not just an early kickoff; it's an early kickoff after an international break, which does kind of heighten the chance, I guess, for a team or a player even to be caught cold. But I kind of reviewed it and I thought, well, the last remaining sort of internationals were taking place on Tuesday night at the very latest, really. There was a few in sort of other parts of the world a bit later than that. So shouldn't really eat into that much sort of recovery preparation time. They should have a couple of days to get ready for this fixture. And look, it's a very important match for both teams, not just Man City's title aspirations, but Liverpool's claims to finish in the top 4 as well. They've kind of managed to get themselves back into a position of promise there. So still has a huge amount of riding on it. For City, there's clearly no margin for error from here. There's 33 points to play for. I suspect they'll have to pick up the majority of those, judging by Arsenal's form, if they are going to sort of defend their title this season. There are doubts over Liverpool too. So City, at the current price, I couldn't disagree or put anyone off them. Obviously, Haaland's fitness is a question mark. He didn't travel with Norway. Foden is definitely absent, but I suspect Haaland will be okay. I think City will be close to full strength. So they have tended to come to the party in the big matches that matter, particularly at the Etihad. 11 home wins from 13 in the Premier League. They've beaten United, Spurs, Newcastle, all with room to spare, in fact, as well. One away at Arsenal in their biggest test so far, even if the Gunners did give them a bit of a helping hand that evening. But yeah, the underlying data suggests that City are still the strongest Premier League suit, even if the league table says otherwise. But yeah, I mean, if you're backing City, a lot of it has to be about sort of opposing Liverpool too, because on their travels, they've not been good enough. Just 3 Premier League wins on the road. They failed to score in 4 of the last 5 across all comps, including that limp effort in Madrid. 12 points from 36 away. They failed to score in 6 of 13 on the road. They were pretty well beaten at Bournemouth, weren't they? Not that long ago either. So I guess the positive for Liverpool, key players returning from injury. We've talked about that centre-half in particular in recent weeks, but there's a chance that Thiago and Luis Diaz will be in the squad this weekend too, which makes them stronger going forward. And I kind of go back to the first question you posed there, Dan, about this being perhaps not such a tight encounter. I think we will see two teams with key players fit, available, and firing at either end of the field. I just thought both teams to score, rather than sort of having to sort of tie yourself in knots trying to find a way to back City. Very, very, very rarely, if ever, can I remember in the last decade, both teams to score bet being available at 1.78 when Man City play Liverpool. It just doesn't happen. It's normally around the 1.5 mark. And that's despite Liverpool's issues on the road. The fact that they have actually scored, though, in every away day at top half teams bar Brighton encourages you, as does the fact that 4 of City's home clean sheets, 4 of their 5 home clean sheets have come against bottom half teams. So whilst they have been getting the job done, and quite impressively so, against the bigger teams, they do tend to give you an opportunity or two. And as we've seen in the past, City don't always have it their own way against Liverpool. Admittedly, their home record against the Reds is pretty strong and stands up to the test of time. But Liverpool always tend to give them headaches. And, there's too much attacking quality in that Reds team not to cause them a few problems on Saturday either. So, I thought ultimately in a game I didn't really want to be too heavily involved in, the both teams to score price was the one that really sort of did stand out.
Yeah, and Adrian, you're in broad agreement with the both teams to score angle. I guess look at it on the face of it, Man City versus Liverpool, as Mark touched on there lastly, 1.78 does seem quite big to me.
Yeah, look, I looked at the prices for this game, and I would say 10 seconds into that browse, I chose my selection. As soon as I saw the price on both teams to score, it's like, well, that's the pick. I just think, obviously, there's no guarantees that it comes in, but there are a lot of reasons why it might, and Mark's touched on plenty of those. It has landed in 6 of the last 7 City v Liverpool matches at the Etihad Stadium. Liverpool have scored in their last 8 meetings with Manchester City in all competitions. So they're a team that are used to taking the fight to Manchester City and prizing them open. City have scored plenty of goals against them as well along the way, of course. But yeah, Liverpool, I would fancy to get on the score sheet. I think they tend to raise their game, Liverpool, against some of the better teams. We saw that obviously against Manchester United, but we've seen it down the years under Jurgen Klopp. I think in all 7 matches against the top 6 this season, they have scored a goal, at least one, Liverpool. So yeah, I can see them scoring again. And look, Liverpool keeping clean sheets isn't really part of what they've been doing this season. City have scored in every home game. Haaland or no Haaland, Foden is out. We know that. You would surely expect Manchester City to get a goal as well. So yeah, I think most things point towards both teams scoring here. I couldn't tell you who's going to win it. I'd love Liverpool to win it, but I would suggest that because of City's immense home record, and as Mark says, their record in a lot of the big games this season, you have to have them down as worthy favourites. So yeah, I could see this being a 2-1, a 3-1 to Liverpool, but to Manchester City rather. But yeah, I hope they drop points here. The Citizens, that would be fantastic for the title race.
Well, which is what it's all about, isn't it? Yeah. And we will get to the article in just a second. Incidentally, if you haven't got a Matchbook Betting Exchange account, if you do look at the odds checker grid at just after 1 o'clock on Thursday, you'll see Matchbook Betting Exchange the best across all 3 match results. 1.68 for Man City, 4.3 the draw, and 5.7 Liverpool. So if you do have a bit of an inkling there, do check that out. But we will lock in 1.78 as an official bet from Mark and Adrian on the podcast. 1.78, both teams to score. Yes, does seem a big price to me. We'll move on to that title race and go to Adrian first once we take a look at the betting as we have it on matchbook.com. This is weirdly a 3 o'clock Saturday kickoff, given the 5:30 game. It is surprising with a Premier League title on the line. However, for those that can watch it, Arsenal are 1.32. Quite short there. Leeds 12.0. The draw is 6.2. Both teams to score, yes, is available at 1.96. No is the favourite in that market at 1.92. The Asian handicap line sees Leeds get 1.5 goal start at 2.08, and the total is 3 goals. shaded a good bit towards the over. Adrian, over to you on this one. Look, whatever happens at Man City Liverpool game, it will all come down onto the Arsenal Leeds game here. It's a weird thing to say here now with no stats available at hand, just an eye test. Are Leeds the type of team that could potentially catch this Arsenal team out?
Any team could catch Arsenal out. This is the Premier League. Bournemouth very nearly caught Arsenal out. I don't think Mikel Arteta, the players, can take anybody for granted, and I don't think they will. Gracia, for me, is a much smarter manager than Jesse Marsh. So in that sense, they've got more of a chance of getting a result here than they had under the previous manager. They obviously won 4-2 at Wolves last time out as well. So they've got a bit of confidence from that. They have picked up a few injuries. I've noticed Max Vober, the centre-half, left-sided centre-half, has made a real difference, actually. I think he's struggling to be fit. Wilfred Gnonto might be out for this one as well. And Tyler Adams is definitely out. So they could be three big misses. But they do have Bamford and Rodrigo back. So they've got some firepower there. Jack Harrison's in good form. But look, I think this is about Arsenal, really, the game. Can they hold their nerve? Can they play with that freedom, that sort of liberated way that they went about it against Crystal Palace and against Fulham when the pressure was also there? And I sincerely hope so. So we should have to wait and see. But Arsenal are very short, aren't they? 1.32 is skinny. It's the sort of match, as Mark will tell you, that they've won down the years, or certainly in recent years when they've been heavy odds on favourites. My way in, I'm going to go against the grain, because the way in for Arsenal this season has been Arsenal and overs. Arsenal and over 2.5 wins you almost every time, because they can't seem to keep clean sheets. Arteta's side at home, only 3 all season, but been scoring 3, 4, 5, often scored 2 as well. So goals have been really flowing nicely. I'm actually going to go the other way and say this might be slightly more tense and a little bit tighter because of Gracia, because it should be less chaotic. And because I think Arsenal will have a heavy focus on keeping a clean sheet. They were really upset, Aaron Ramsdale in particular, when Palace scored the other day. So as I said, only 3 all season. But look at the prices, right? For the best prices, the shortest prices on this game that you will find for the exact score are 2-0, 1-0, and 3-0 in that order. So when you look at that, the market tells you that Arsenal winning to 0 is a good possibility. So that's my bet, because Arsenal and overs is quite a bit shorter this week for obvious reasons. So I would rather take on the bigger price and go with Arsenal to win and to keep a clean sheet here, on the basis of those exact scores being the shortest priced expected in the market. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see. The last time I bet on this, Arsenal conceded after, was it 9 seconds?
9. I was there. 9.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we were both there, weren't we? And that lost me my quickest bet of the season. I sincerely hope we get more than 9 seconds worth on Saturday.
Yeah, I remember you texted me straight away saying that's the quickest bet got done, and I was like, forget that. There's a title race about to be lost here in the next 90 minutes. Over to you, Mark, on this one. You're actually going with the Arsenal over 2.5 goals. Can you see where Adrian's coming from a bit with Gracia, and maybe that bit more defensive approach from Leeds, perhaps leading to Arsenal maybe only getting a 1 or 2-0 win, perhaps?
Yeah, I can certainly see it, and I think the conundrum always is in these kind of situations is, what do you pair Arsenal with? And I originally started this with Arsenal and under 4.5 goals, which is a slightly shorter price for Arsenal to win, and over 2.5 goals. But I've ended up going with the overs angle. Javi Gracia obviously is a more organised, efficient, and a sort of effective head coach, is setting his team up to be competitive in these kind of big games. However, I think there's a few reasons to suggest why this game could still get a little bit out of hand in terms of goals. Arsenal 6 wins on the spin since that Man City defeat, obviously featuring some extraordinary moments at Villa Park and the Bournemouth game. They're running hot according to expected goals, but I think it'd be unfair to sort of beat them too hard with that drum, because this team is seems to be growing on a weekly basis and maturing. To look at some of the youngsters who are really sort of stepping up to the mark, Saka and Martinelli, the obvious ones, but Trossard's come in and done an exceptional job leading the line. Gabriel Jesus is now back in the squad as well. So there is plenty of options. Saliba, we understand, might be a major doubt now for the weekend, which I do think is a blow. The drop off from him to Rob Holding is quite severe. Obviously, Ben White's been playing okay at right back, and Tommy Ashu's missing, so he'll have to stay out there. So, but yeah, Arsenal scored 3 goals or more in 5 of those 6 wins since the City defeat at Emirates Stadium. They scored 3 or more goals in 9 of 14 games. They're averaging 2.71 goals at home. So, Arsenal could conceivably cover this mark all on their own. We talk about their record at home to bottom half teams, 77% win record since 2017-18. When priced up as odds on favourites at home in that same time, the same 77% win rate. And when they've been priced up at 1.5 or shorter at the Emirates during that same sample, it increases to a 90% win record, which is just phenomenal stuff, really. But yeah, my wager has won in all 8 of their matches at home against bottom half teams, and in all 11 of their Emirates Stadium wins so far in the Premier League this season. I think a key contributing factor to this selection is no Tyler Adams. Massive miss in the midfield. I do like Weston McKennie, not so much Mark Rocker, but Adams is enormous for that team in terms of energy and work rate. Only João Palhinha has made more tackles and interceptions combined than Adams, and in the 3 games he's missed in the Premier League, Leeds have conceded 8 goals and allowed 60 shots, which kind of goes to show how loose they can be without him. So, Gracia said after the 4-2 win at Wolves, he wanted his side to attack from the start, try and exploit Wolves' own lack of confidence, and then sit back and defend that lead. They scored 3 times, but nearly chucked it all away. It was only their 2nd away win of the season. To me, they've not quite cured the sort of chaotic nature of the previous campaigns either. But I do think they will take a more conservative approach here. But you look at similar teams who have come to the Emirates and tried to do similar. Palace and Everton came here with game plans to be tight, try and expose weaknesses, play on the counter-attack. Everton, I thought, did pretty well to do that for 40 minutes before a great goal from Saka opened things up. And I think that's the issue. If Arsenal do score in this first half, things massively open up. And I just think Leeds, with Bamford and Rodrigo fit and available, do offer a threat, particularly on that counter-attack. And if Arsenal are missing Saliba, are missing Thomas Partey, who didn't obviously go away with Ghana either, there's going to be opportunities for them. And as Adrian says, Arsenal can't seem to keep clean sheets at the Emirates this season. However, this bet doesn't always just have to rely on Leeds scoring. I think Arsenal can cover that line themselves with no Tyler Adams.
Yeah, tough one for me to weigh up now because Mark's made a good case. The counter one, I think, just based on the price, as Adrian touched on at the top, I do think Arsenal, both teams, to score 2.24. Could also be a tense game with that title race on the line as well. But incidentally, all the selections that Mark and Adrian put up will be available on insights.matchbook.com Thursday afternoon, and that's quite popular over the weekend. So if you are looking to have a bet ahead of the weekend or during the weekend, do check out Matchbook Insights or insights.matchbook.com. We'll move on to Mark's game of choice. I gave the guys a game of choice each. So full disclosure, this is Mark's game of choice, and we'll take a look at the betting that we currently have at matchbook.com. You can back West Ham at 1.79, Southampton 5.2. The draw is 3.95. Both teams to score yes is available at even money. No is 1.85. The Asian handicap line sees Southampton get a 3/4 of a goal head start at 1.91, and the goal line for this one is 2.5, shaded a good bit towards the unders. So yeah, Mark, you were looking to cover this game. Did you have a bet in mind going into it? Was it a case of just you wanted to see where these two teams were and how the market priced it, or what was your thought process in this one?
A big game, and I thought there was a selection that did appeal to me. Clearly, we're going to have a number of 6-pointers between now and the end of May or the start of June, because there's 9 teams involved in a relegation battle, just 4 points separating them. I was kind of surprised, I guess, with the FA Cup weekend and then the international break when I looked at the Premier League table. West Ham are now back in the bottom 3, and obviously Southampton bottom of the table. So huge match for both. Hammers will be making progress in Europe, but struggling to put consistent performances together domestically. Just 6 league wins all season. I don't think anyone anticipated that after back-to-back 7th place finishes, but sounds like the ownership is still behind David Moyes. Although I know that supporters are a bit more concerned about progress. They should have a full squad available here, and their form at the London Stadium has been improved, 8 points from the last 4 games, and they've won 5 of 9 when hosting teams outside of the top 8. So I can see why West Ham are favoured. Do I want to back them at odds on quotes? Not really, because of that poor win rate overall. And I just think Southampton are showing small signs of progress in the right direction. They might not be winning matches or being particularly inventive, exciting, adventurous, but they are being competitive. And I think the 3-3 draw with Spurs may have we've seen some sort of characteristics there in terms of belief and spirit and character come to the fore. To go through a lot of adversity in that match, losing both centre halves, Bella Kotchup and Bednarek before half time, clawing their way back from a 2-goal deficit. We've seen Theo Walcott kind of revival, leading the line alongside Shay Adams. They've been quite a handful, the pair of them, even if they haven't been the most clinical and inventive. But I just think Ruben Selles now, he's got a plan in place. He's got an idea of how to make Southampton competitive. And we've seen them now pick up as many points in the last 6 Premier League games under his tutorship as they managed in their previous 17. They've already won 3 times at bottom 6 rivals. So I don't really want to dismiss Southampton, even if I know that sort of goal scoring is probably going to be their downfall, not just perhaps this weekend, but perhaps overall this season. So I was looking towards under 2.5 goals. Traditionally, tight matches, 6-pointers tend to be tight and scrappy affairs. I know this is an angle and a route that Adrian's talked about numerous times in recent weeks in similar circumstances, and I can see it being the case here. But not just that, it's the fact that this has got such an overwhelming win rate when these two teams are involved so far this season. Under 2.5 goals is won in 19 of West Ham's 26 Premier League games. It's won in 11 of their 14 at the London Stadium. It's won in 5 of Southampton's 6 under Selles. And if you look at both teams' records against their fellow sort of relegation rivals, unders has landed in 8 of West Ham's 11 and 7 of Southampton's 12. But actually, if you extend Southampton's record to cover bottom half teams in total, 8 of their 14 games haven't just gone under 2.5 goals. They've gone under 1.5 goals as well. So, not just under Selles, but throughout the whole campaign, they've been involved in tight competitive affairs when based against a similar sort of ranked sides, if you like. So, I've plundered for that at the bigger price compared to West Ham to win. I don't really want to back the Hammers at odds on. I just think backing under 2.5 goals, you can afford then to be backing West Ham to win 1-0 or 2-0, Southampton to get the underdog victory, or the 0-0 and 1-1. I do think there's got a high chance of a draw here, but I understand why the market is favoured towards West Ham. But as I say, just backing unders, you get that range of correct scores on the side. I'd be surprised if this game escalated into a bit of a ding-dong shootout.
Yeah, pretty strong case for under 2.5 goals at 1.82. But Adrian, something Mark did allude to was West Ham and their record in the London Stadium being able to win. And you think there is a bit of juice in the 1.79 here?
Yeah, look, it's a very strong case that Mark made. I think I found myself thinking, I'll pick that instead.
Too late here.
But no, West Ham and under something is a good option. I think here I do favour West Ham. The reason I didn't go for unders, even though the stats are absolutely compelling, is the lack of clean sheets really from both sides. I think that they've got the lowest in the division in terms of the number of shutouts they've had, along with Leeds United in the Premier League this season. So that was what put me off. I just fancy West Ham. I think they're starting to find their feet at London Stadium. I'll be working on this game for viewers or listeners outside the UK for TalkSport, and look, I'm looking forward to it, but I'm not expecting a classic, as Mark was discussing. I think that West Ham are a better team than Southampton. I worked on the Southampton Spurs game, and even though it's a great result in the end for the Saints, I wasn't very impressed with them. It was a pretty low quality match. Theo Walcott was by some distance their best player. I think that Bella Kotchup is still out. I think it's a dislocated shoulder, wasn't it? And I doubt if he'll be back in time. And he's their best defender. Some of their defending was really poor against Spurs for their first goal, for instance. It was just shocking. And I think that West Ham, with everyone fit, I think that could be a difference for them this weekend. He's got a fully fit squad to choose from, maybe for the first time this season, David Moyes. I can see them taking the fight to Southampton in what should be quite a good atmosphere. I would have thought the Hammers fans will make plenty of noise given what's at stake here. So, and West Ham have a great record at home to Southampton. They did lose this game last season, 3-2 at home to the Saints. But prior to that, they were unbeaten in 9. And I think they'd scored at least 3 goals in the previous 4 visits that Southampton have made to the London Stadium. So they normally stick a few past them in this particular fixture. And yeah, I just think that they will win this game. The price is a bit short for my liking. I'd prefer them to be closer to evens, but clearly the market agrees that West Ham are worthy faves here. So yeah, look, I'm going to go for West Ham, but I wouldn't put anyone off doing Mark's bet. Maybe a compromise might be doing West Ham and under something.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of ways into this game for sure. We're going to lock in Mark's bet here under 2.5 at 1.82, but Adrian's West Ham pick will be up in insights as I touched on. So that's the first of Sky Sports Sunday games, and the second one is a massive game for head of the top four, or looking ahead to the top four race for the last 10 games of the season. It's Newcastle versus Manchester United. We'll take a look at the betting that we currently have at matchbook.com. You can back Newcastle favourites in this game. 2.52. Manchester United 3.05 on the road. The draw is 3.55. Both teams to score, yes, is quite short here. 1.76. No is 2.16. The Asian handicap line sees Manchester United get a quarter of a goal head start at 1.82, and the total for this game is 2.5. Shaded a small bit to the under. So, look, Adrian, this was your game of choice. I guess it was it wasn't your game of choice. That was the Arsenal Leeds game, but in Newcastle Manchester United game, this is such an obvious one to cover here.
I would have picked it too. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. It's such a huge game. Like, it's a 6-pointer for the top four.
Yeah, it is, and it's a really interesting game. It's the third time, obviously, they would have met this season. So we had a goalless draw at Old Trafford. We had the League Cup final, which Manchester United won fairly comfortably, but 2-0. But low scoring affairs. Newcastle failed to score, obviously, in both of those games. And I think familiarity sometimes, leads to more caution. Everybody knows each other that little bit better, and the strengths that you need to nullify. So Newcastle have had 2 good looks at Manchester United now, and I think they'll have a better idea of how to stop them this time around. So I do think it'll be low scoring. The stats kind of back that up. If you look at Newcastle's home games this season, 9 of their 13 have gone under 2.5. They've not been involved in that many thrillers. We had the early one, didn't we? 3-3 v Man City. That was definitely an outlier. 8 clean sheets in those 13 home games. And United, it's a middling record on the road in terms of unders. I think 6 of their 13 have come under. The concern for me, if I was a Manchester United fan, is the form away to the better teams in the division. Against the top 8 this season, away, they've played 4, lost 4, scored 5, conceded 20. Obviously 7 of those were at Liverpool, but still poor. Brentford battered them. Arsenal did batter them, really. It was a good game. Well over 20 shots from Arsenal, scored 3 goals. City, 6-3. Obviously, it was a long time ago, but they still haven't delivered on the road against anyone decent. Manchester United. And I think this will eat away a little bit at Erik ten Hag and his players to some degree. And I think that they will respect Newcastle United in this fixture, and that they'll not play defensively, but they'll certainly look to not concede goals early on in the game. They'll look to keep things a little bit tight. So I see this being a low-scoring affair. I think Newcastle have got a great chance of winning it, but I wouldn't stick my neck out on the line and back them. I'm happier going for unders, which is a slightly more attractive price than the last one. Was it 1.9, 1.9, 1.94? Yeah, I think that's a decent enough price on under 2.5 goals. So that's my pick here.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you, Mark, on this one. That you're expecting another KG. We're not really set on this Sky Sports Super Sunday with 10 games to go in the Premier League season.
No. I mean, both matches have plenty of intrigue about them, but I can certainly make the case for unders more so than overs at the prices in terms of a betting heat. And yeah, Adrian's touched on most of what I would have said, really. Go back to the League Cup final, United winning that game 2-0. The goals arrived from a set piece and a deflection. I thought it was quite competitive for the most part. Newcastle perhaps a little bit disappointing in that game, but go back to the reverse at Old Trafford. They shut United down really quite impressively in that 0-0. One of 6 0-0s they've been involved in the Premier League already this season. They have got back on track with those back-to-back wins. Isak's introduction has given them that clinical edge in the final third. Quite surprised he's actually scored 6 goals in 10 Premier League appearances, because his campaign's been quite fractured by injury. He's probably gone a little bit under the radar until recent weeks, but they haven't been keeping clean sheets as regularly as they were at the start of the campaign. However, at St James's Park, they do tend to be strong opponents. 7 shutouts already. in front of the home supporters. Their matches under Eddie Howe against the top 6 do tend to be tight affairs. 10 of 17 have gone under 2.5 goals. And they're hosting a United side who have fired blanks in back-to-back Premier League games. And their only win at top half teams came at Fulham. They're coming into this game without Casemiro, without Eriksen, Garnacho, doubts over Rashford and Sabitzer as well. So, yeah, United haven't been purring recently. 2 wins in the last 5 league games. Weren't completely convincing in the first half of one of those wins against Leicester either. So, yeah, and whilst their sort of defensive numbers do look pretty horrendous on their travels, almost all of those, 54% of those goals conceded came against City, Liverpool and Arsenal, who you'd say are probably 3 of the top 4 most lethal forward lines in the division. I don't put Newcastle in that same bracket, even if they are sort of league position-wise up there. So, yeah, I think it's almost a must-not-lose occasion for United, this. And Newcastle, obviously, will be well aware of the importance too. So I was very tempted by Newcastle +0, but it's 1.77. So to me, it was kind of logical just to back under 2.5 goals here at 1.94 because, if Newcastle are going to win, are they going to score 3 goals or more in this match? Obviously, United can contribute in a 2-1 or a 3-1 as well, but I just think you get so much more on your side backing under 2.5 goals than anything pro Newcastle. You've got the 0-0s, the 1-1s, and the 1-0 and 2-0 either way as well. So, probably being a little bit dismissive of United. They still are a quality outfit, but going through a bit of a lean spell after what's been a really tremendous sort of turnaround under Ten Hag. So there's an opportunity here for Newcastle, but don't see this game getting out of hand, if you like. And I think also it's probably worth noting that in that League Cup final, it was quite a tetchy affair, especially in the second half. United pulled out all the sort of dark arts, if you like, and there might be a bit of a revenge opportunity here for Newcastle, but they did sort of start losing their heads a little bit towards the end, and discipline has to be on point if they are going to get a result here.
Yeah, you mentioned the dark arts, and Newcastle are pretty decent at it. I have a theory that's purely down to Kieran Trippier, to be honest with you. Spending a few months with or a couple of years with Diego Simeone, would do that to anyone. I just think he's brought that to Newcastle, and anyhow has let him away with it. So now I think they are as good as anyone on the defense of the dark arts, but we will lock in under 2.5 goals at 1.94. As we were talking there, 0-all sort of appeals in both those Super Sunday games. Matchbook, you can do multiples on Matchbook as well. That's in and around 138.5, second best on the odds checker grid, and that's before the markets get real liquid as well. So if anyone wants to check out and do a cheeky 0-all double, you can do that on the Matchbook betting exchange. I know I'll be doing that after talking myself into it, and the guys talking myself into the unders here. So little fun one to cheer on. Full recap of what we've covered so far. Manchester City, Liverpool. We're going with both teams to score yes. Arsenal, Leeds. We've locked in Arsenal, both teams to score no, 2.24. West Ham versus Southampton, we're locking in the unders at 1.82, and the unders again, 2.5. That is for Newcastle versus Manchester United. Insights.matchbook.com. There will be a lot of bets thrown at you in the next few minutes. Full recap there from Thursday afternoon, and that'll be available throughout the weekend. So we'll go to EFL first. Adrian, you've been keeping an eye on the EFL when Mark's been sunning himself in Tenerife. So tell us what's happening.
Well, yeah, I got a couple of games for you anyway. It's a big weekend actually in the Championship. And yeah, I've picked out a couple of the juicier games as well. There's the South Wales derby, Cardiff against Swansea. It's a 3:00 kickoff on Saturday afternoon. You'll see up on the screen both teams to score no is my selection. Initially, I'd looked at unders. I'd wrongly assumed that the unders would have been a better price than BTTS no, but that is not the case. And I just couldn't turn my nose up at it because I like a little bit of history, and I've used history in this fixture before as well when tipping up things. 11 successive Cardiff v Swansea derbies have seen both teams to score no land. It's amazing. I don't know why. It just keeps happening. So that's 11 times on the trot. Sod's law, it won't happen this time, but it's my selection here. What else to justify it? Well, Cardiff games are very rarely exciting. At home, 1.74 is the average number of goals per game. It's the lowest in the Championship. And I was looking at Cardiff at home to the bottom half teams this season. They've had 9 games against bottom half teams. Swansea are in the bottom half. 6 clean sheets for Cardiff against bottom half teams at their own stadium. They've only lost 1 of those games. 8 of those 9 have gone under. So look, Cardiff in this type of match tend to grind it out. It's either, it's a lot of 1-0s in there. As for Swansea, it's kind of like that away from home. 7 of their 9 games away to teams in the bottom half have gone unders. They've only scored once across their last 4 away games as well, Swansea, so they're not travelling in any great form. So look, it's a derby, so I think that naturally makes you think about a lower scoreline. And for the reasons outlined and the historical success rate of this tip, I'm going with both teams to score now.
You can't ignore that. It's got to be 12 in a row, Adrian. Please God, and we'll lock that in. Both teams score now 1.85, giving it away. Cardiff versus Swansea. The second championship one is Luton versus Watford. This is reminding me of my anti-post bet at the start of the season back in Watford to win the championship, who are almost 30 points behind Burnley currently. So I don't think we're winning that one. Chris Wilder's taken over there, but you're not seeing the signs early on that you're expecting Luton to come through.
He's a better man. He's probably a better guy for the job than Slaven Bilic, even though I don't dislike Slaven Bilic. It's just such a hard club to manage, isn't it, Watford? The turnover is just ridiculous, and I don't think anyone ever feels settled, or the players don't really have that affinity to the badge because they're being moved on and whatnot. I just feel that Watford need a bit of a reset as a club. Now, this is another derby, and they hate each other. Luton and Watford, they absolutely despise each other. Watford spanked Luton 4-0 earlier on in the season. 2 different managers at the helm at that point. But Rob Edwards, of course, is a former Watford manager who's dismissed very early on in the campaign, and he's joined their bitter rivals. And let me tell you, he will be very, very determined to win this game, as will the Luton Town fans. It can be quite hostile inside Kenilworth Road when it's packed out, and particularly for this fixture. So I don't think it's going to be easy for Watford under Wilder to go there and play their football. And they want to play football. They want to play through the thirds. Wilder's a tactically smart coach. I don't think it's going to be a very tactical match. I think Luton are going to make it very aggressive. They're going to come at them. The wing-backs are going to fly on and pump crosses into the box for the front 2, the 2 big guys, Adebayo and Morris. And I think that Luton can get joy. Luton are in good form. 7 clean sheets in their last 12 games. And across the last 12 games, they're the 3rd best team in the Championship, 25 points. Across that same period, Watford are the 13th best team in the Championship, just 15 points. So I looked at it and I thought, well, that's not a bad price on a home win, 2.22 for a side that's, so much better form-wise than their rivals, with a high level, and I mean high level of motivation to get one up on them. So yeah, I just look. It's not nailed on because this is a derby. Anything can happen. It could be a red card in the first few minutes. It wouldn't surprise me. But my hunch is that Luton win this game, and it might be a fun one to back if you fancy getting involved and watching it. I think it's on the telly as well.
Okay, Luton versus Watford. Luton 2.22 locked in. We'll go to Mark for European selections, and we'll go to La Liga. And Mark, look, ordinarily 12th versus 17th in La Liga doesn't scream goals. Would you like both teams to score here big time?
Yeah, well, La Liga hasn't been screaming goals at all this season. It's Europe's lowest scoring major league, just 2.43 goals per game on average, and both teams to score hit rate of 48%. 8 sides in the division are seeing their matches produced a maximum of 2.3 goals per game, and that includes the league leaders Barcelona, which kind of highlights how unentertaining, I guess, the league has been so far this year. But here we've got 2 sides who do play football, if you like, in inverted commas, in the right way, look to get the ball down and play forward-thinking football and score goals and entertain. Also, 2 of the top 3 in terms of that goals per game rate are meeting here. It's Girona against Espanyol. Girona, top of the goals per game rate, 3.12 goals per game on average. Espanyol third with 2.85. Both teams boasting a pretty solid 58% return for over 2.5 goals winners. But it's both teams to score hit rates that really sort of stand out off the page. Both have seen BTTS in 19 of 26 La Liga games, which is 73%. And if we were to sort of crudely turn that percentage hit rate into implied odds, you'd get 1.37, whereas we're getting 1.91 here on both teams to score. Now, that's not how you do price up matches, but my model does suggest for BTTS it's far too big a price here. It should be closer to 1.7. I think it's a really good bet to have this weekend for numerous reasons, not just those sort of top-level stats, but the raw numbers, as I say, 73% hit rate. That's overall, as well as home and away for both teams. Espanyol, despite sitting one place above the relegation zone, have scored in 23 or 26 league games this season. Only Barcelona have a better goal-scoring return than Espanyol, which is quite remarkable, really. They're playing a Girona team with just one clean sheet. Nobody's kept fewer in La Liga this season than Girona. But Girona have scored in 20 of 26, and they're playing Espanyol, who've kept one, or haven't kept an away clean sheet since early September, bar when they went to rock bottom Elche, which is just doesn't really count, really. They're that bad. So, as I say, Girona are our head coach, Michel, got them promoted from Segunda last year, playing really good attacking football. They've carried that on this season. Only the top three, Barca, Real and Atletico, have scored more goals in the league this season than the home team. And Espanyol are now managed by Diego Martinez, who did wonderful things with Granada. Hasn't quite got Espanyol sort of moving in the right direction consistently, but there is enough talent in that squad to stay up and also to make a mark here in Catalonia. So a bit of a Catalan derby, but expecting goals.
Okay, both teams to score 1.91 currently. Girona versus Espanyol. We'll stick with you, Mark, and La Liga for our long shots section, one of my favorite sections of the show. Those that aren't going to really have a bet, maybe just have a small, fun one to watch over the weekend. If there's one across Europe and Premier League throughout anywhere on the continent, Mark, where are you looking for something in and around 6-7.0?
Yeah, well, Athletic Club look too short to me to back. On Saturday, they're hosting Getafe. They're having a very solid season under Ernesto Valverde, potential to qualify for Europe as well. But the majority of their best work has been done before the World Cup. Since La Liga resumed, they won just 3 of 12 games, picked up 12 points and scored 12 goals in a 12-game sample. To me, they look like vulnerable hosts at 1.66, and Getafe just look enormous at 7.2 to win this match. They are embroiled in a really tight relegation battle, similar to the Premier League. They've got a decent enough squad and a head coach in Quique Santos Flores, who's much better than the most coaches down there. And their season has started to turn for the better. They've had a really difficult campaign, but 1 defeat in 7 now, 3 wins in 5. They've held Atletico Madrid away in that sample, lost very narrowly at Villarreal. But for me, it's the manner of their performances. And I've seen them a few times recently. They're in the top 8 for underlying metrics over a 7-game sample, which I mentioned. But actually, if you look at the games, they scored 7 goals in the last 3. They played really well when beating Sevilla, really well when drawing away at Cadiz, really well against Girona as well. And I don't think the step up to Athletic is that severe. The fact that Getafe haven't lost by 2 or more goals since September shows how close and competitive their matches tend to be, how tight they tend to be as well. And I always think when teams are involved in these tight games, it doesn't take a huge amount for things or the ball to bounce in your direction just once or twice to get a big victory at a big price. So if you look at the 12 games since the World Cup, Getafe have earned more points, scored more goals, won more matches, and lost fewer games than Athletic. But they're 7.2 to win this match. So I think they're better than the league table suggests, and I think they can get something out of this match too. So the pragmatic approach is to back them +1 on the Asian handicap, but we're not being pragmatic here. We're backing them at 7.2 to win.
It's the long shot section, of course. 7.2 though, I'm sold, Mark. Doesn't take much at that sort of pricing, in fairness. So yeah, Getafe 7.2. Adrian, over to you on this one. Just a quick one. This is Brighton versus Brentford bet. Stephen Kenny actually went out of his way to praise De Zerbi's way, his team. He said he's never seen anything the way he plays, the way he sets up that front four, the Evan Ferguson, the front two sitting in a bit, and then the wingers pressing ahead. So I just thought that was very interesting that Stephen Kenny went out of his way to say Evan Ferguson's playing completely different to any other team throughout Europe. But is this similar to the Brighton Fulham you had a few weeks ago, where you maybe expect Brighton to dominate Brentford for larger periods, but maybe Brentford to just see it out and nick a win at the end?
Yeah, look, I got some joy with that long shot, didn't I, when we backed Fulham? And it's something very similar in the air, because why are Brentford 5.5? Why are Brighton 1.71 to win this one at home to the Bees? Look, there's not been much between these two sides. I think Brighton edge it over the course of the season. They've got a couple of games in hand, but they're pretty much level pegging in the league table, and they're at home. So, but is that worthy of such a difference in the market? I'm not really sure. So as soon as I saw that, I thought, well, this has long shot potential. And you dig a little bit deeper. Brentford beat Brighton. De Zerbi's Brighton, albeit early days, beat them 2-0 in West London earlier on this season. And of course, you know, they've gone and won at Manchester City. They've drawn at Arsenal, albeit fortuitously with that referee's decision going their way. But they are tough to beat. They really are. And Brighton aren't exactly infallible at home. They've lost 4 times under De Zerbi at the MX. Fulham beat them, Arsenal beat them, Villa beat them, and Spurs beat them. So it's not a fortress. And I give them a better chance than the market is suggesting here. My way in is to go with the draw at half time and Brentford to come on strong and maybe win it in the second half. I was looking at how often Brighton games were level at half time. Brentford 23 drawn in 52 combined halves. So it's what is it? It's almost half. So you got a almost half a chance that it'll be level at the break. But Brentford are a good second half team. They score a lot of goals late on in games. No one's actually scored more than Brentford in the last 15 minutes of matches this season. They've scored 11 goals in that from 76 minutes onwards. So they are the sort of team that come on strong right at the end of games. So look, yeah, it's a fun one, but I this is more price related than it is being anti-Brighton. I like Brighton; they're a cracking team, but I do think that Brentford are capable of winning there, and it wouldn't surprise me if this scenario played out at 11-1.
And Brentford, of course, have a tremendous record against teams who have more possession than them, just the way that they're set up under Thomas Frank as well. 12.0 seems quite big. That 5.5, incidentally, is the match odds and is the best price on the odds checker grid at Matchbook right now. 5.5, as short as 4.5 elsewhere. So well worth checking that out too, if you just want to back Brentford on the nose. So we will move on and stick with you, Adrian, for best bets. So these are podcast best bets of the throughout the card for if you had to have one bet on the weekend. And Adrian, we're going Premier League, but we're going to the 5:30 game that Saturday that I thought should have been replaced by Arsenal Leeds. But you like Villa to make it competitive here away to Chelsea.
I do, yeah. It's price related again. You look at the odds for this fixture, and you would say, well, Chelsea are absolutely nailed on to beat Aston Villa on home turf, and I just don't see it that way. They've got the same number of points. They've had identical seasons in terms of their results. Villa have won 3 of their last 4. They've got 3 clean sheets in those 4, and away from home under Unai Emery, they've been excellent. They've won 4, drawn 1, and lost 1. So they can absolutely be competitive here. You look at Chelsea, and in the particular with reference to the +1 handicap. Well, how often have Chelsea won by 2 goals or more at Stamford Bridge this season? Twice. Bournemouth, 27th of December. Wolves, 8th of October. That's it. They've failed to win 7 of their 13 home games. Dropped points, of course, against Everton before the international break. And they've only scored 16 home goals in 13 matches. So they're not exactly ripping it up. So if Villa can get themselves a goal here, I'll be very surprised to see this bet lose. So yeah, it just stood out to me as a price pick, really. I don't think Villa have been given enough respect in the market, and for that reason, I definitely want to get on side. It's not a huge price, 1.75, but you get a lot of score lines on your side here, and that's enough for me.
Okay, yeah, Villa plus 1 goal on the Sky Sports game, 5:30, 1.75. Mark, we'll go to your best bet, which is Bundesliga. Quick word on Bayern and what's been going on there with the managerial changes. I did see someone on Sky Sports News saying Dortmund have to be favourites going into this weekend's game, and all the quote tweets and replies were like, I'd love this person to give me maybe this price on Dortmund and Bayern. So talk about someone not understanding the general concept of betting in general, Mark. But yeah, a little bit on Bayern and then into your best bet on the card, which is away from the Bayern game.
What to say on Bayern? Disappointed, in all honesty, to see Julian Nagelsmann lose his job. Bayern, very, very ruthless. They almost sack you for what you haven't done yet and sort of try and pre-predict where things go. But they've got a very, very important next couple of weeks coming up, starting with that game against Dortmund. And they're very eager to make sure that they get the results that they feel they deserve. And, Bayern haven't been the sort of swashbuckling, all-conquering team we've come to expect more often than not this season. So perhaps you can see and understand the reasons behind it. There's rumours that Nagelsmann and some of the players didn't see eye to eye towards the end of his tenure as well. I did think it was quite an outlandish appointment at the start. He is still quite a young and still maturing head coach as well. And we can see that with some of the off-field stuff, which personally doesn't bother me. But, dress sense, that kind of thing will anger and kind of infuriate some of the Bayern hierarchy. They are pretty stuck in their ways like that. But
it's poor though, isn't it, Mark? Come on, some of the clobber is outrageous.
I thought you meant.
I thought you meant the decision to sack him. But, on both. I feel he deserved a bit more respect to at least see out the season. But this is Bayern Munich all over for you. And they felt they wouldn't possibly have the opportunity to appoint Thomas Tuchel if they'd waited any longer. So I can understand it from their perspective, but I felt like Nagelsmann's been treated a little bit harshly. So we'll see where he pops up. I personally would move well clear of the Tottenham gig if I was Nagelsmann and see what lands up in the summer, because there's a lot of big clubs who could be looking for a new coach come June, July time. So we'll see where that one goes. But yeah, in terms of this weekend, that's obviously the big game, the Klassiker. But Union Berlin, who are only 5 points off the top, they have had a bit of a stuttering run, but I think that's understandable because they've been involved not just in the Bundesliga title race, possibly not realistically, but they're there on merit. They've also been involved in Europa League action and the DFB Pokal. So it's been quite a hectic period for them. So kind of understandable to see them stutter a little bit. But they've remained very strong in Berlin. 8 wins from 12 unbeaten home games this season. And just very surprised to see their odds against to beat Stuttgart, who are bottom of the table on Saturday. This is an Union team who scored twice or more in 9 of 12 games, conceded just 8 home goals all season. They've only once conceded multiple goals, and that's despite facing Bayern, Dortmund, Leipzig, Frankfurt, and Wolfsburg, who you would say are 5, and Gladbach as well, actually, 5 or 6 of the most lethal forward lines in the division. And they've barely ever conceded multiple goals in those games. And this home record goes back long time, really, basically since they won promotion to the top flight. But if you go back to the start of last season, Union have won 18 games at home in the Bundesliga on home soil, a 62% win rate, and their only 2 defeats in that time came against Dortmund and Bayern last season. So they are a pretty formidable force at home, and I just think they'd be far too strong and streetwise for Stuttgart, who have lost 13 of 25. As I said, they're rock bottom. They're winless away. They've lost 7 of 12 on their travels. Their record when you're travelling to or facing teams at any venue, when you exclude the bottom 7, reads 0 wins, 5 draws, 12 defeats, no clean sheets. They've conceded twice or more in 10 of 12 road trips, and they come into this game having lost 6 of their last 8 as well. Now, there's a chance that Guirassy could be back fit, which would be a big boost for them in forward areas. But defensively, they've been atrocious. Bruno Labbadia hasn't been able to stem the bleeding. And ultimately, the sort of bonus of having Guirassy back fit and available is kind of cancelled out, really, by the fact that Union have had this opportunity to rest, recuperate, and go again after what's been a really hectic period. So expect them to be bang on it. And in front of that home crowd, a very tight, compact stadium, they tend to be pretty strong operators. So 2.1 on them to win this match just looks too big. They should be odds on.
Yeah, for anyone who doesn't have it out in front of them, just look at that Bundesliga table that Mark touched on there. And yeah, dress sense only matters to Mark O'Hare if your name is Scotty Parker, it turns out. So that's the way it is.
No. Parker, I couldn't care how he dressed. He's just I'm not going to say the word.
We'll get into it. We'll do a Scotty Parker podcast down the line.
No, we won't.
Yes, we will. Yes, we will, Mark. Just deep dive into that. But my thanks to Mark.
Get him on. We need to get him on, don't we? Yeah, get him on. He's out of work. Maybe he could do a bit.
He's a good pundit. I enjoy listening to him when I hear him sort of doing punditry work. But I just think there's a lot of holes in his coaching CV. So how he could get a gig in the Champions League just beyond belief. But yeah,
dress as well.
Not participating in any Scott Parker podcast.
My thanks to Mark O'Hare, who won't be participating in that Scotty Parker podcast. My thanks to Adrian, who will, absolutely. And my thanks to you for listening. If you are watching on YouTube, we do hit that subscribe button. You get it for free, completely free, and all the content will be available. You just need to turn the bell notifications on. You'll see anytime we go live across all sports. And if you are listening to the podcast, we'd really appreciate a preferential 5-star review if you are enjoying the content. We'll be back next Thursday, one more Monday away before Champions League time. Until then, enjoy the weekend's football. It's good to have it back. Chat to you next week. Bye-bye.